Welcome back, guys, to another video. Today we're going to be talking about week 1 and what to expect. So in my last video I finished off with 0 week and just kind of what happens through those first couple of days while you're getting there. You're just getting used to the routine, you're adjusting to being in basic training. So now we're in week 1, your actual first official week. And the weeks in BMT start on Sundays. So your first Sunday, you're going to have your MTI with you in the dorms. This is the last time that they'll be with you on a Sunday in the dorm, because after this, every Sunday you'll be left alone, meaning that your MTI won't be with you, but there'll still be other MTIs in your squadron area because there's still flights below you, so there'll always be a 0-week flight, so there'll always be an MTI with that flight somewhere. So, and then you also have instructor supervisors, so you're not alone, but there's just not an MTI in your dormitory. But anyway, so our first Sunday we went to church, myself and 6 or 7 other people went to the CP service. We had a older week flight take us. I think they were in like their 4th week. So they came down and took us over to the service. Now, I will tell you, for me, the CP service is it's like a Christian-based service. It's really fun. I have watched videos about people saying that even if you're not religious, to just go to a service because it kind of helps you to unwind from the week and you aren't in the dorm anymore, so you can go off to somewhere else other than your dormitory. And I would highly recommend that even if you're not religious, just go to a service. It's time away from the dorm. You can kind of unwind. And for me, it literally took me out of that atmosphere. It almost was like I wasn't even there anymore. So that was really cool. We also, after the service was over, we learned how to do our details, which are going to be cleaning the dormitory. So you'll get assigned different details. There's the latrine crew, there's hallway crew, there's bed aligners, people that go through and make sure the beds are aligned. There's shoe aligners because your shoes have to be aligned perfectly. There's a stairwell crew, so they basically clean the stairwell outside of the dormitory. There's a pad crew, so they clean the outside where you do your different drill practices underneath the overhang, so you have to clean that area. So there's a lot of different details. They assigned those to us in 0 week, and they basically asked people, I think some of the questions were like, who here likes to do laundry? And then people rose their hand and they were like, all right, you guys are going to be a laundry crew. Then they asked who has a master's degree or a high-ranking degree. Those people rose their hands, and then they were our academic monitors, which they didn't really have a job up until towards the end, which basically they were just quizzing us and making sure that we knew our information for the EOC. So that kind of came in later on. Then they asked, who's a neat freak at home? And then they were bed aligners. So the questions didn't necessarily relate to the job. So if you want to volunteer, I mean, you can, it's kind of, you don't know what you're going to get depending on how they word it. I didn't raise my hand because I didn't want to volunteer for anything I didn't want. I didn't want to be chow runner. I didn't want to be an element leader or anything like that because I wanted to we had only been there for a few days and I wasn't really comfortable yet being kind of in a leadership role or where, you know, you're going to have a spotlight on you. So I didn't raise my hand at all for anything. I ended up getting hallway crew, which was actually not bad at all. I'm really happy that I got that. My only detail was I had to mop and sweep the hallway going out of the dormitory and then we had to clean the water fountain that we had in the dormitory, and we also had to clean the chrome that was separating the bays. There's two bays. One bay had 30 beds and the other bay had 30 beds. So there was a piece of chrome that separated the bays to the hallway. So we had to clean that. And it wasn't that bad at all, actually. So I kind of lucked out with that. And then after that, we learned how to do EC, which is entry controller. So you'll have two people that will be on EC at all times when you're in the dormitory. So another job actually was EC monitor for detail, and that person is basically going to schedule the EC shifts. So they're going to write down the bed numbers that are going to do the shifts, and then those people will do them. So it's a 2-hour shift. One person does 1 hour, like marking the boxes. There'll be a sheet, and you'll have to mark every 10 minutes that you did your checks, and you'll do that for an hour, and then the second person does their checks for the second hour, and then so on and so on. So we learned how to do that. There's different procedures on what to do, like if there's a fire in the dormitory, or if an officer enters the dormitory, what you have to do. Same with if your MTI is of the opposite gender, there's certain things that you have to do, and like they can't come into the dormitory if the flight is changing or showering. There's certain procedures and stuff. So there's a binder that you read through, and that'll go over what you need to do when you're on EC. It wasn't hard to do. It was just no one really wants to do it because you kind of lose out on things, especially the night shifts, the overnight shifts, because you get woken up to do the shift. So the 02 to 04 shift, you would get waken up to go do a 2-hour shift and then trying to go back to sleep before you wake up. And so towards the end, no one really wanted to do their EC shifts. We had a couple of issues with people falling asleep on the shift, which is definitely not something you want to do. Our brother flight actually got in trouble because they fell asleep on one of the shifts, and you could hear the CQ, which is the charge recorders. There's a little box in every dormitory, and they will check in on you every 2 hours to make sure that everyone's okay and what the temperature in the dormitory is. So the box will go off, and you'll have to go up to it and tell them that everyone's still in the bed. So they'll ask for how many people are assigned, which would be how many people are assigned to your flight. So we had 48 people, and then how many people are accounted for. So then if someone was maybe like at an appointment or whatever, then you would say 47 out of 48 assigned, or whatever the case may be. But overnight usually it would be the same number because everyone would be back by that time. So on Monday we actually got our M16 trainer weapons, and these you also will have with you on EC. So you'll have them on your shoulder, and it was kind of cool at first when we first got them, because that was actually the first time I had handled a rifle before, even though it's not real, it's a trainer weapon, so I can't actually fire, but still, it simulated like the same weight and everything in the parts, and you'll practice taking it apart and putting it back together, and it was really cool actually. So we got assigned those, and then we also practiced taking them apart and putting them back together that day too, so that was pretty cool. And that was all that we did on Monday. So on Tuesday, one of our element leaders actually got fired. So at any point, your dorm chief, you'll have one dorm chief, and then you'll have 4 element leaders that'll lead each element. So they're basically like, it'd be like your dorm chief and then your element leaders below them. So one of the element leaders actually got fired, and then they promoted someone else basically to be an element leader. They got fired because they did not have their 341s filled out correctly. So you'll get these papers, it's a white piece of paper, and basically you're supposed to write down your name, the squadron that you're at, and your flight number. And that's all you needed, but it can't have punctuation or anything like that. And he had like 5 of them on him, but none of them were filled out correctly. So our instructor supervisor actually fired him on the spot. and promoted someone else. He was like, you're going to be element leader now. So if you're in a leadership position, you want to make sure that you have your stuff together, because if you're going to lead the rest of the flight and you don't have your stuff together, then that's not going to work. So basically, if you want to make sure, regardless, that you have your stuff together, because they can pull your 341 or anything like that at any point. And if it's not correct, then that's going to look bad on you, and then you're going to get in trouble with your MTI. So make sure you have your stuff together. We also had a hearing test again that day. So we went to the medical clinic, same thing that you did at MEPS. You put your headphones on, and then you'll hear a beep, and you press the button. It's the same thing just like MEPS, but it's on your record this time. So do good on it, because you can get disqualified still. So that is something I didn't know, that you will have to do another hearing test. So we also, during week 1, got our peanut butter shots, which I was telling you guys about in my other video. So on Wednesday, we went to the same place where we got our original shots, and this is where we're going to get the peanut butter shot. So like I told you guys before, I don't like shots. Like, I don't do good with shots. So I was really freaking out about it, and other flights that were ahead of us was telling us that it wasn't that bad and not to worry about it. It just kind of, your butt will kind of just be sore for a couple of days. But still, I mean, you don't really know until you actually go through it. So we went to get our peanut butter shot, and they asked if people were allergic to penicillin or amoxicillin or any of the penicillins in that same family, that they would be excused from the shot and that they would have to just get pills. They lined us up. They had us pull down our pants, pull down your underwear, and then they jab you with the needle, and they tell you not to clench up because that'll make it worse. And I was trying to relax, and then she put the needle in, and immediately I automatically just tensed up, and it went in, and I could just feel it, like it just immediately was sore, and just so. And they wanted you to lock on with another person that had already gotten the shot after you had put your pants back on, and walk out so you guys wouldn't fall. It was kind of funny, but it didn't hurt at all, but it was just really sore. So my advice would be, if you're allergic, then just get the pills. But I actually heard too that some people were able to get the pills, or not people, but like maybe a whole flight was able to get the pills because they had ran out of the shot. So that was pretty good on them. But I would say, like, for 3 days, you'll be sore, and it'll just be sore. Like, you'll sit down and it's sore, but make sure you massage it, the area where the shot was, because it helps. And then I think we had PT the next day, and like I was just sore for like a good 3 days after you got the shot. But after that, it's fine. You go back to normal. And then I actually got 2 more shots in my arm that day. So I had got 2 shots in the arm, and then also the penicillin shot. So that was fun. So on that day, we also had a change up in our leadership again. Our dorm chief ended up getting demoted to an element leader. The element leader that I got hired got his job back, and then they fired a different one. So it was kind of like chess with our element leaders and dorm chief. They say that the first dorm chief always gets fired. For my squadron, we have 4 flights that came all at once, and on the date I shipped on May 8th, and I believe all of the original dorm chiefs did not make it. If you're like one of the original dorm chiefs, they might want to put someone else in that position, even if you are doing a good job, just to kind of bring the flight together, or give that other person a chance to show their leadership skills, or whatever the case may be. So don't take it to heart if you get fired. If you want to do it, go for it. I think that um, if you have the passion, if you have the drive, and if it's in your personality, that you could do it. You could do it. For the rest of the week, we just had different appointments. We went to records, which we got like our photo taken for our CAT card, which is like your military ID. We went to finance. We went to just different appointments and stuff throughout the week. We learned how to do some more marching movements. So you're, it's like a building blocks. You are learning different steps and different things as you go along, and they kind of connect to each other and make it easier when you're marching as a flight and you don't look as crazy. We also had our first strength day, which was fun. When I was before I joined, I would go to the gym and I would mainly do like treadmill. I'm more into the running side of physical fitness versus like the strength and muscles and stuff like that. So like push-ups and sit-ups, I was worried about. I think in my other video I was talking about how I was nervous about the PT test because push-ups and sit-ups weren't really my thing, but I wasn't really worried about the run. So let's talk about my first PT test. So in my BMTSG, I actually there's a page in here because you'll learn about physical fitness, kind of how it relates to the Air Force. And there's a page about where you can record your time. So I actually have the times that I got in BMT from the initial one, and then you have another PT test in your 3rd week, and then your final PT test, which is for graduation in your 6th week. So
a few moments later.
So on my first PT test, I got, for the 1.5 miles, I got a 12:33. And then the push-ups, I did 20 push-ups.
What?
You have a minute, guys. You have a minute to do as many push-ups as you can. And I did 20. I did 32 sit-ups in a minute. But it's kind of cool because you'll see how you grow from that. So, because you're doing PT every day, every single day, for the most part, while you're there. So you'll definitely grow based on these numbers. With my run time, in my other video, I was talking about how there's 4 lanes at the track. So the first lane, the innermost lane, is going to be for the 0-weekers, and also if you're a red belt. So depending on what your time is, you'll be in that innermost lane, which means that your run was too long. It was longer than what it would be to pass the PT test. And then the next lane is the yellow belt lane. So you're kind of borderline between passing and failing the test. And then the next lane is the green lane, and then the blue lane. The blue lane is if you get, is like the best lane, basically. It's the outermost lane, and it means that you did good. So I started off in the green lane. And then also on that day, we went to the BX for the first time to get kind of, it's like a mini mall basically, and they will have different stores, and then they have like restaurants, like fast food restaurants and stuff, which we weren't able to go to. We just went to the store part, and we were able to get like shampoo and different toiletries if you needed them. So we did that, and then we also did some RLAs, which are basically where you will sit down at your bed and you'll clip strings. So on your uniforms, there'll be strings on them. You'll have to clip them, and you're just basically making sure that everything is set up in your drawer correctly, everything's folded correctly. So you use that time to just make sure your area is squared away. It's more of a down day, which is really nice. We also signed up for our GI Bill during this week. So if you're interested in the education benefits of joining the military, we actually signed up to either enroll or not enroll in it, in the Montgomery GI Bill. So it's for 12 months that you're gonna pay $100 a month, and that will be taken out of your check, and then you will get the benefits of that. And I can talk more about that if you guys have questions. I have it still in my BMTSG, exactly on how it works. Other than that, week 1 was basically just, you're still getting familiar with everything, and you're getting more comfortable now as the days go by. And my next video will be talking about week 2, which is mainly all classes. Classes. And I'm not exaggerating. Like, you will be in a classroom for 4 hours and then you'll go to lunch, and then you'll come back, and then you'll have more classes, and it's just going to be great. So that'll be in my next video, so stay tuned to that. Until then, see you guys later. Thanks.